Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our virtual training on funding your mission. So I'll be leading this training, obviously. I recognize some of the folks here. But yeah, before we get started, we could do a quick round of introductions since we are going to have a chance to ask questions, have sort of an open discussion at the end. So it'd be helpful if we all just quickly take a second to get to know each other and give a second for some, stragglers to show up a couple minutes late. So obviously, I already introduced myself. I'm Chase, campus organizer for the East region. Also, just sort of help as like an icebreaker. How about we all say like one thing that either we did recently or we're doing in the near future that we're excited about. So I, for example, have been going to a bunch of old movie screenings that I've been greatly enjoying and looking forward to a couple more of those. I'll pass things off to my coworker, Stephanie.
Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, the West Campus organizer. And something that I've been doing lately is I've actually been doing as many like artsy fartsy workshops in the area. I've noticed there's a lot of collabs between like coffee shops and like ceramics and things like that. So I've been like on a hunt for those and signing up for a bunch of things like that. So, fall season, pottery and ceramics sounds kind of fun, right? So that's what I've been up to. And I will popcorn off to Anthony Gomez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Gomez, and I am a undergraduate student at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I am majoring in computer engineering. I'm currently in the computer science lounge, and let's see, um, one thing I'm doing, planning to do, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. My life is pretty boring right now. Like I'm strictly just like focused on school. However, I will say, mm, hopefully in the next month. Well, let's see. This month I have some pretty big birthdays. It's a close cousin of mine and a close friend of mine. Their birthdays are back to back, the 14th and the 15th. So I look forward to um celebrating their birthdays. We usually do maybe like a brunch for my cousin. She loves to do brunch, and for my friend, he likes to just go to a nice bar. So I look forward to doing that.
That sounds fun. And also, by the way, if anyone doesn't want to share anything, also feel free and just go ahead and pass if you don't want to share any cool things going on. But if you do have something cool, please do share. Let's go ahead and popcorn. How about Raphael next?
Hi everyone. So we're doing our name, major, and what we have up going on, Chase.
Yeah, just something cool you want to share.
Um, Hi everyone. My name's Raphael. Uh, my major is physics. I'm in the Western Illinois chapter here in like it's by the Illinois-Iowa border. And something cool that's going on. So, um, I I mean I finished a midterm today, so that's that's something.
That's good. Who should go next after you, Raphael? Also, quick heads up: our allies at the Upstate New York Free Thinkers are just listening in, so they're not going to contribute their voice. So when we're doing the this part of it, just feel free and skip the Upstate New York Free Thinkers. They're just listening.
Oh, okay. Um, Besides me and Anthony, who else went?
That's it. So
Okay. Um, how about Mr. Devon?
Hey, I'm Devin from Mississippi State. Uh, I'm an electrical engineer major right now. Uh, I've got there's a local show in town coming up soon. I'm hoping to go to that with some friends. Uh, that's about everything. And I'll popcorn over to my club's faculty sponsor, Bob Swanson.
Are you on? Oh no, there we go. Bob's connecting.
Yeah, seems like caught him off guard.
If it takes a second, I guess we could circle back to Bob. Uh, how about Jules goes in the meantime?
Hello. Yes. I'm Juliet Bridges, and I'm from Lakewood High School, and I'm excited for Halloween mostly.
That's a good one. How about unless Bob's ready, how about Hayden goes next? Since it does look like Bob's still connecting. Are you able to jump in, Hayden, or do you want to pass on it? All right. Feel free to jump in the chat if you want to speak up later, Hayden. How about has anyone else not gone yet? I believe that actually covers everyone. Are you able to jump in with a quick something cool, Bob? All right, no worries. Let's just go ahead and get this rolling because we will have a chance to briefly chat at the end or longer than briefly, depending on how many questions or situations y'all want to bring up. So if you're not having trouble connecting now, for example, there will be opportunities to chat later. But let's just go ahead and get started. So, why should my SSA seek funding? Um, I generally think that this is fairly obvious, but sometimes when you dig down into the details, there might be some aspects that you might not have considered before. So, on the more obvious level, I think everybody recognizes that there are various activities that you and your members want to participate in, where funding might be needed to make that possible. One example that I give is we had an SSA chapter a while back that happened to have a lot of folks that are involved in STEM, sort of like science majors. And so one thing they wanted to do was take a trip to their local observatory. But it did cost some money to be able to go on an observatory trip. And even with some help from me, where I requested that the observatory get a discounted rate, which we were successful in doing, even a discounted rate still costs money. And although this going to an observatory is a fun thing to do, this is the sort of thing that likely would not be as good a fit for an SSA grant, just because it's more of a community building exercise. It's less of a promotional activity. Our SSA grants are for things which can be seen as promoting the club to a wider audience, as opposed to just creating a fun activity for those people that are already part of your community. So that doesn't mean that going on a trip to the observatory is obviously not something worth doing. It's just not a good fit for an SSA grant, which is why it's good to have options for funding beyond just relying on funding from the SSA national organization. But of course, going to observatory is just one example. It could also be bringing a notable speaker to campus. In fact, we have two folks here from Mississippi State University. As an example, I actually took a screenshot of an event that they have coming up later on this month, where they are bringing a notable speaker to their campus. So that would be, something that would actually be a better fit for SSA funding, because bringing a very notable speaker is something that will likely draw in other people to want to attend the event, and therefore is a good example of promoting the club and is therefore eligible for SSA grant funding. And another example would be organizing an event with, particular needs that cost money to be able to do. These are all, things that you should not feel limited and feel as if, oh, there's no way that our SSA could do this, so let's just not consider it. In fact, there's not only one way of getting funding to allow you to do cool activities like this, there are actually multiple ways. And I'm going to be breaking that down in the remainder of this training. So that way you have a better sense, not only number one, of all of your different options to seek out funding, but you should have a better sense of what type of funding is best applicable for X activity that you have in mind for your chapter. Also, an additional benefit of securing funding is that once your members realize that receiving funding is something that's totally doable, it will encourage more engagement. Some chapter members who might have a cool idea, but in the back of their mind, they're thinking, well, no, this would cost money for us to go on a cool trip to a museum. When they realize that securing funding by one of three different methods will allow this to be possible, well, now they will feel confident being able to speak up and say, hey, everybody, what if we took a trip to such and such museum? And not to mention that pulling off an event that does require funding to do does tend to bring members closer together. It tends to be the sort of thing that you need group involvement. It's not just going to be one person handling everything solo. So the fact that, officers or maybe even some of the regular club members get involved in the planning and the execution of this is going to mean that after this event is successfully pulled off, the group is going to feel like I don't know if I'm the only one that was on a sports team, for example, when I was younger, but after the team comes together and, wins a big game or something like that, you now have that feeling of connection that you're really bonded together. And so pulling off an event along these lines, done successfully is really going to achieve that for your group. And you're going to feel that much more confident as a campus leader going to all the either officers or regular club members and saying, hey, that was a really great event, but what are we going to do next? The whole team is going to feel more ready for that. Yeah, let's move on to the next slide. So, breaking down the three types of SSA funding, and I'm of course going to go into a little bit greater detail on all of these. So, first of all, we do have SSA grants and stipends. So, all SSA chapters and affiliates are eligible to receive SSA grants. Even if you haven't achieved RSO status yet, you are still eligible to apply for grant funding. As I briefly stated earlier, grants are for a specific event that promotes the club. So, one example could be what Mississippi State is going to be doing, where they're bringing a really cool speaker to campus later this month. Another example would be something like buying food and snacks for a first meeting, since it is true across the board that especially for a first meeting, but even for later meetings as well, knowing that there is going to be some sort of free food, snack, refreshment, etc., available is likely to increase your turnout. And we don't want our student leaders to have to go out of pocket for this. So as soon as you reach affiliate status by securing a faculty staff advisor, most student leaders are able to do that even if you're at the very early stages of launching a group. Most folks are able to do that before they even have their first meeting. This means you would be eligible to get reimbursement for that cost of food and snacks for that meeting, before, you would have that available for your very first meeting. Stipends, of course, are for those chapters that have reached full chapter status, which means that they have achieved RSO status. RSO, for those who might be unfamiliar, is recognized student organization status. That just means that you've gone through a process at your school, that your school has created the process. And once you fulfill all those obligations, at the end of it, you get a stamp of approval that your school has recognized that by fulfilling this process, they agree that you are bringing value to the entire college or high school campus community, and therefore you become eligible, at least at the university level and college level, to be able to request funding from your school itself. That'll be moving on to talking about that in just a second, of course. But since applying for school funding is its own sort of issue in the sense that it tends to have a longer application process, we do open up up an additional type of funding once you achieve RSO status, which would be a stipend. The stipend is funding that the student leaders themselves can use to spend on themselves. We do have some very golden-hearted SSA leaders. I think there's about two of them right now that are actually using the stipend funding for the club itself. That's certainly not required, and that's a minority position. Most student leaders use the stipend to, cover their own costs like rent, food, textbooks, etc. But you could even use SSA funding, for some club event if you happen to be financially in a relatively safe position. Of course, the other additional benefit of joining the stipend program is the $500 that is set aside for your whole chapter to help with costs for attending SSA Con 2026 in this coming summer of next year. So this is not funding this extra $500 on top of the funding that you receive that you sort of put in your own pocket. The additional $500 is set aside, and depending on how many people you have planning on coming, $500 would be more than enough to fully cover the registration costs for definitely over two people. In fact, it would almost cover the cost of three people. And that way, three people are guaranteed to not need to rely on any other source of funding. If you happen to have a big group of people who want to come out, like 5, 6, 7, 8 people, that would be fabulous. $500 probably won't fully cover that, but at least will reduce down the amount that you might need to, seek out funding from other sources to be able to make up that funding gap. But needless to say, starting $500 right off the bat makes that whole process a whole lot easier, as well as just giving you some peace of mind. So, like I said a second ago, requesting campus funding. This is only available in almost all cases once you've achieved RSO status, once you've gone through that process so that your school has given you the stamp of approval. The upside of applying for campus funding is they can cover a significantly higher amount of money. We actually have had some SSA chapters that have received in the range of $2,000 to $3,000. So we are talking about a very significant chunk of change there, to say the least. That is the upside of applying for campus funding. The downside is the application process does tend to be more difficult, and it is something that you want to generally get done earlier. So I'm going to have a little bit more details on that in a second. But also the good news, if you feel intimidated about applying for that $2,000 to $3,000 from your school, SSA campus organizers are available to help walk you through that process. So any one of these steps that I'm outlining, in fact, it's worth stating that SSA campus organizers can help walk you through the process for any one of these, or in fact, all three of these types of funding. If you happen to have a lot going on and you want to request funding from three different sources over the course of a year, that's certainly possible. And SSA campus organizers will be by your side throughout that whole process. And then finally, we do have fundraising. The great thing about fundraising is that there are no restrictions. This is, money that you have raised on your own with some assistance from our campus organizing team, most likely, since, like I said, we are available to help with this process. But because you are raising this funding on your own, it means that none of the sort of restrictions that we are talked about in some of these other things, SSA grants can cover things that promote the club, but wouldn't be applicable for something like doing a trip to the observatory. Fundraising that money, you could use it on anything. You could use it on going to the observatory. Also, of course, unlike the requesting campus funding, there's no application you need to go through. All you need to do is set up something like a Give Lively page and then direct either, local organizations that would want to support you to make donations there, or if you also want to rely on friends, family, coworkers, etc., to make donations on a fundraising page like Give Lively, you can certainly do that too. But if you don't happen to have a network like family, friends, coworkers, there definitely are options to get local organizations to support you. And that's one of the things that us campus organizers are available to be able to help you with, figuring out what would be the right organizations to reach out to, and in fact, helping you execute that outreach as well. That is something we are available and happy to help with. So let's move on to the next slide and talk about these in a little more detail. So, like I said, SSA grants and the SSA stipend. The best thing about this is it's quick and easy to apply for. I've given the link right down there, secularstudents.org/grants. It honestly probably would take you less than 5 minutes to fill out a grant request. So, if you're sitting here in this meeting thinking, hey, I've got some cool things that I think actually would be a good fit for an SSA grant. You could go ahead and just type that link into another tab, and you would likely be able to fill out that full application for grant funding before this virtual training is even over. That's how easy of a process it is. The downside of applying for SSA grants is that because we are, relatively speaking, fairly small as far as nonprofits go, if you were trying to request something in that thousands of dollars range, that is really something that is just beyond the SSA's capabilities to be able to apply, to be able to use grant funding for. Like I said, if you do have really big goals and you want to do something that would cost roughly in that range, we are available to help you to figure out, like, okay, we'll help you do some fundraising. Have you achieved RSO status? Oh, you have? Well, then let's also apply for school funding. Hopefully you end up getting this school funding, but if it turns out that you get rejected for the school funding, we'll be able to walk you through a fundraising process where potentially by doing fundraising, we could reduce down the amount of funding that you need to be able to do this event. And then all of a sudden, when the cost is lowered down, something like an SSA grant would be more feasible because you got part of the cost covered by fundraising, and then the SSA swoops in with a grant to pick up the remainder of that cost. So definitely don't be afraid to sort of coordinate with us, to let us know what you're thinking, give us an estimate of what you think the total cost of pulling off this event would be, and we can sort of take things from there and let what would be the one funding source you want to go through, or what the sort of tag team approach, by using two or three different funding sources that I'm covering right now. Whatever your situation is, we'll help guide you through that process so we can find the best way to make that happen. Because obviously, at the end of the day, us campus organizers, the whole campus organizing team, our role here is to help you execute, goals that you come up with on your own or based off of advice that we provide you. And so, don't hesitate to bring us into the process. It's literally what we're here for. So if you ever need guidance, we are happy to let you know, well, this would be a good fit for an SSA grant. This would be a good fit for fundraising. This would be a good fit for a combination of multiple things here. And then, of course, I gave our emails for myself and Stephanie down there at the bottom. Those would be the best places to start in terms of consulting on some idea that you have in mind. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So, Mississippi State folks, I'm sure will be happy to see this. I did a screenshot of a page that they have as part of the student organization's website for Mississippi State. They are going to be hosting a very cool speaker named Durante Lamar, who's a former ex-pastor who now is involved as a advocate for secularism and atheism, and is going to be coming out to the Mississippi State campus on October 16th. So SSA grants are not eligible to be used for honorariums, which is some speakers require that in addition to travel costs and stuff like that, they want some money just for their time. We are not able to use SSA grants for that, but we are able to use SSA grants for things like travel costs. So for travel costs, hotel costs for Durante Lamar, that is something that an SSA grant would be applicable. And so in the case of Mississippi State, they requested a little bit over $500. They gave us some information about how that $500 is going to be spent. They gave us information on what they're hoping for from the event, etc. And that's exactly the information we need for myself and Sean, our national organizing manager, to sit down, have a chat about it. And at the end of that, we said, yes, this is a worthy project. And we approved Mississippi State to get that funding. So as I said, as you can see, Bob and Devin are popping off in the chat. It's a very easy process to go through. If you have any ideas along these lines, or even if you're uncertain and want to check if something would be applicable for a grant, reach out to our campus organizing team to see if that would be a good fit, or just go ahead and submit that grant request right now. And if it happens to not be a good fit for an SSA grant, we'll respond and let you know and outline some options of how we can get you that funding by a different method. All right, let's keep things moving along. So next, requesting funding from your school. So the main thing I like to highlight about this is that the process is slightly different at each school, which I know is frustrating sometimes for student leaders to hear. It's frustrating for me to deal with because I do wish there was a uniform process at each school. That would certainly make it easier for me to give a step-by-step right now of what you need to do to request funding from your school. But the reality is that each school is given a little bit of freedom to determine this process on their own. So, the main things I would recommend if you're planning on requesting funding from your school are this. Look into the process in advance. You're going to want to know deadlines. You're going to want to know what they expect of you to submit. The second recommendation I would give is submit earlier in the semester. The reality of applying for funding from your school is there is a chance that you will be rejected. And I know in one or two cases that have happened over the past 2.5 years that I've worked with the Secular Student Alliance, some chapters have been rejected for their application, not because there was anything weak in their application at all. It was purely because the institution at their school that oversees the SGA, the Student Government Association funding, they got back and said, by the way, people applied earlier than you, and we operate on a first come, first served basis. So, we already approved a bunch of, in the SGA's minds, strong applications for grant, funding from the school itself. And so all of those funds have already been released for this semester. So these chapters ended up getting turned down for their school funding request, not because of the quality or the content of what they submitted, but purely because they showed up too late. And this is also something that I've just seen again and again because the Christian student organizations on campus tend to have more built-in infrastructure. There's likely churches in the area that have been, having youth programs and working with religious college students, likely going back decades. They have a long-standing support structure that they can rely on. And those folks will tell the new student leaders, hey, this is just something we do every single year. Our Christian campus group just always applies for university funding. We submit it as soon in the semester as we can, and then we get that funding. And so then people just keep doing that same thing year after year. The reality is that your student government association funding comes from student activity fees that you pay. This is money that is charged to each student as part of your cost of attending university. And so we're not just talking about money that the student got, that the school got from some amorphous process. The school got this money literally out of your pockets. And so don't let only the religious student organizations monopolize this funding. Since you are paying into this pot of money, it is only fair that you make sure that your organization has a fair shot at getting that funding as well. So learn the process. If you need help figuring out what the process is at your school, check in with your campus organizers. We can do research and dig through your school's website to not only find the pages that outline this process, we can even help walk you through that process step by step so you have as high a chance of success as possible. And then, like I said earlier, submit that application sooner rather than later. We don't want your application to be rejected purely because it was just submitted too late in the semester. So those would be my recommendations for requesting funding from your school itself for those groups that have achieved RSO status. And next, I have an example of this. So I took a screenshot out of the Ohio State University website just to demonstrate that, for example, one of the things they say here is that there are 5 specific deadlines for funding throughout the year. That's one example of that's the process at Ohio State, but it's not the process at every school. Some schools don't have 5 specific deadlines that you need to apply for your funding within. Some only have 2 deadlines, one for the fall semester and one for the spring semester. At Ohio State, it happens to be 5 different deadlines that you can apply for throughout the year. You can also see a little bit above the application deadline section in the amount section. You can see there it outlines that long-standing organizations that have been at the school for a long time have the ability to apply for between $3,000 to actually $4,500 total per year, while newer established organizations can apply for $3,000. And then once your organization has been established there longer, you are able to apply for a greater level of funding after you've already gone through sort of a year's probationary period, roughly speaking. As I said, it is a process that understandably some folks might feel a little bit intimidated, but I would just say rely on your campus organizing team. Reach out to your campus organizer if this is something you're planning on doing. We can find the pages like this that I did this screenshot from. We can share it with you and we can walk you through the process so you have as good a shot of getting that large check of, two to $3,000, something like that. Just be in contact with us and we'll help you have as high a chance as possible of being able to get this. Let's move on to the next one. And lastly, fundraising. This is something I get a little excited talking about because I spent much of my career before working with the Secular Student Alliance doing fundraising for a whole variety of nonprofit organizations. And so fundraising, I like to point out, is the most versatile form of securing funding, given that there are no restrictions on what you can spend the money on. There's no application process you need to go through to be able to secure that funding. Sure, you do need to create a fundraising page, and sure, you do need to drive either students or either friends, coworkers, etc., or organizations to that page to make donations. But like I said, if you don't have a network of friends, family members, etc., that you can draw on, no worries. You can rely on organizations that are supportive of your mission, and you will have help at every step of the way. And as somebody who has spent a large portion of my life doing fundraising, it would be my pleasure to share all of the experiences and sort of skills that I have learned in those years, be able to share those with you so that when you execute your campaign, a local organization that receives an email from you is going to think, oh, wow, this is such a well-written email. They make a very compelling case. They click on the link to your fundraising page. They see a beautiful fundraising page that we helped you design on Give Lively. That is going to give you the highest chance of success. And although I am primarily highlighting Give Lively just because, frankly, it's easier in my experience to fundraise over there, you're able to reach a wider audience than you're able to doing in-person fundraising. That's not exclusive. You can do in-person fundraising as well. Like, let's say you're setting up a table. For example, some student organizations have tabled not necessarily on campus, but let's say there's a cool community event. One example I know an SSA chapter of ours was able to do tabling at their local Pride event that was happening for their city. And they were able to get a table set up there. People came by, were very excited about the Secular Student Alliance representing both secularism and standing up for minority rights. And so there were plenty of adults at this Pride celebration who were willing to pull out their wallets and make a cash donation or write a check or what have you to be able to contribute money so that that SSA chapter would have funding to make their dreams come true. So generally speaking, people do this online, but if you want to do this in person at something like your local Pride event that's happening in your city, we're also able to help you walk through in-person fundraising as well. And I highlighted it down there at the bottom by separating it from the others a little bit. I know I said it a second ago, but even if you don't have family, friends, etc., that you can draw on for your fundraiser, that's not a huge deal. There are local atheist organizations, even Unitarian churches, for example, are supportive of our mission since they're not exactly religious. Sometimes they're described as religious humanists. The point is, Unitarians share a lot of our values. There's a whole list of local organizations that share our values that would likely contribute to your page. So don't feel limited just because you might not have friends and family that you can contact for fundraising. And let's see a quick example of this. So I did a screenshot from a student leader who I helped do fundraising to attend SSA Con. So this is a page where you see that our student leader, Christopher, was able to get donations of $409 out of the goal that he set of $650. And so this is an example of, our SSA philosophy is, if you put in the time and energy to try to do something like attending SSA Con, and let's say you fall a little bit short, like it's going to cost you $650 to be able to attend SSA Con. But guess what? After you put in a bunch of time and effort, you only raise $409. We don't want that fundraising to go to waste. So it's definitely a situation where, okay, you put in the good work, we can sweep in with an SSA grant to cover the remainder of what you need to be able to attend SSA Con. And so student leader Christopher was able to attend SSA Con both at Little Rock and at our more recent conference in Cincinnati. And this fundraiser was a key part of that. I also recently created what I've called the 2025 SSA Chapters and Affiliates Independent Fundraising campaign, which is under the sort of SSA organization, but I've created a campaign there on our Give Lively where if you just scan this QR code, you are going to be able to, it's going to take you to a link which will prompt you to create your own page that falls under the umbrella of this campaign I've created. So I do like to highlight that when we're fundraising for something like SSA Con, for example, there are some more limitations. The fundraising that you do for SSA Con can only be used for SSA Con expenses because we create a specific campaign for SSA Con, and that's sort of part of the rules of how that campaign is set up. But that's why we do have this option to create an independent fundraising campaign. So this is for all you chapters that you're not doing this to attend SSA Con, you're just doing this to have extra money for your chapter to be able to use on whatever your dream project is. This page is or this campaign is already live. It's ready for you to scan the QR code right now if you want to, and go ahead and prep a fundraising page. In fact, I would encourage folks who might not currently plan on fundraising, but you might have that idea in the back of your mind. Sure, I might not need to fundraise right now, but I could see it being likely that a little bit down the road, December, January, something like that, something's likely to come up where maybe we suddenly will need funds. I would even recommend go ahead, scan the QR code, start prepping the page, and we don't need to make it go live right away. You can just prep the page, have it be ready to go. And once a need arises for your group to need to do fundraising, we just make that page go live. Once that need has arisen, and that way it saves you the work. You'll be good to go to sort of jump right in and start fundraising immediately with all of the prep work already done in advance. And as I've said plenty of times before, but I'll say it again just in case, we are here to help walk you through the process at every step. So everything about making the page look pretty, making sure that donors know what are the different ways that they can contribute, helping you do outreach by email, text, etc. Every step of the process of fundraising, we are available to consult and, in fact, even help you do it by providing things like email templates. Here's a great template that you can use. Here's a list of organizations that would likely contribute. All you need to do is take the template that we've written for you, send it off to all of these groups on this list that we've pre-prepared for you in advance, and then let us know how some of those responses go. If additional steps are needed, we'll sweep in and give advice about what additional steps may be needed to convince those organizations to decide to click that blue donate button. So yeah, I'll go ahead and leave this up here, I guess, just for a second, in case anybody does want to scan the QR code. But we have reached the end of my official part of the presentation. But I did want to, oh, and also, by the way, I guess we could always go back a page if anyone needs to as we're talking about this. You're like, hey, that'd be a good idea. We can hop back and show the QR code again in a second. But I deliberately wanted to make sure this presentation is relatively short, since I just wanted to hit the main points. But I also just wanted to leave time for folks to speak up in case anyone's planning on doing fundraising, but you do feel intimidated and it might make you feel better about the process to be able to ask questions of me right now. This is exactly what this final part of the training is here for. So people, feel free and hop off mute and let me know if you have any questions or just any open discussion relating to this topic in general that you want to have a chat about. We've got both of our campus organizers here available to help answer any questions you may have.
Chase, I'll jump in real quick. More, first of all, as a big thanks to SSA, but also as a cautionary tale for those who might be thinking about applying for school funding. Depending on where you're located, just be very aware of it because actually at Mississippi State things changed for us this semester because essentially student activities is not able to spend any money on any group at all because of a federal executive order or something of the sort that has trickled down to the state level, where
There's basically a thing saying like
yeah,
they had to have like a neutral stance,
right,
and so our school, in preparation for that, wasn't like we didn't have like a firm idea of what that meant, and so it just froze like every club's funding until they get like a more defined like idea of what that means.
yeah, it's viewpoint. The student activities money has been deemed to be state money, and state money can't be appropriated for anything that is not viewpoint neutral speech. And so they've essentially student activities and university legal has pushed till the spring. So they're not going to distribute any of the student activities funds until the spring, until they have a better idea as to what that means. So just be aware of that if you are thinking about applying for student activity funding. But that's where SSA really helped. The grant has really helped in getting Durante's talk online.
Yeah, good point. You guys gave me the heads up about that sort of freeze on school funding, which is obviously painful news for me to hear. But yes, thank you for that heads up because that is definitely something that we are seeing in this, how should I put it, evolving political environment that we're all living in right now. And the good news, of course, is there are, resources like, Bob was saying, they weren't able to apply for school funding, but they were able to get that funding from a grant instead. The good news is because there's more than one option, if your school happens to be in a similar position, you do have other options to rely on. And in fact, if your school is in a situation like that, that is something that we also take into consideration. So, we'll perhaps be able to have the ability to have a little bit more leeway in a situation where it's like, hey, the environment at the school is just making applying for school funding, impossible. Even though they richly deserve to be able to receive that funding. So do keep us informed, and if your school happens to be in a similar position, we will definitely keep that in mind as we walk you through additional funding options. Thank you for highlighting that, Bob. I do see I got two folks who have raised their hands. How about let's start with Anthony Gomez, who's got his hand raised.
Hi, I just had one question. So I'm not familiar with Give Lively, and I was just wondering if you could give me like a quick breakdown, like how the structure is. And if you can try to compare it to like GoFundMe, because I'm, much more familiar with GoFundMe. So I
Yeah,
guess like one burning question is like, does it have like that fee, like like for example, 10% off, 10% fee for using their website or something like that?
great question. So Give Lively is very comparable to something like GoFundMe. The key difference is that there isn't that fee. And I'm glad you brought that up
Mm.
because that's definitely, something that is true on various crowdfunding platforms. Of course, crowdfunding is what people generally, describe both, GoFundMe and Give Lively. The difference, between something like GoFundMe and Give Lively is geared specifically towards nonprofits nonprofit organizations, which is
Mhm.
part of why that fee that's applicable to something like GoFundMe, or if you're also in sort of the film world, the way I am, there's also other crowdfunding platforms like, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, etc. There's a whole bunch of them. Generally speaking, there is a fee for most other ones, but that's part of why we use Give Lively is that fee doesn't apply to Give Lively, which is a big part of why we use it in the first place. Um, did that fully answer your question, Anthony, or was there anything? Because the functionality is basically the same. You want to create an attractive looking page. It's got a nice photo that also has a nice description of why you're raising the funding, the amount, sort of it's helpful to break down why you're requesting that amount of funding. So there's obviously a bunch of details that, if you do it properly, it will help ensure that your page has the highest likelihood of success. But broadly speaking, creating a page on GoFundMe is not that different than creating a page on Give Lively. It's just a different platform, and you're not going to receive that fee that you were asking about. Did that fully answer your question, Anthony?
That did. Yes, thank you.
Any follow-ups related to that, or does that cover it?
Uh, Not at the moment.
Okay, great. I see Raphael also has a hand raised. What would you like to ask Raphael?
I mean, I forgot to mention this before, but there's just something fun where we're doing. I'm gonna do the school year. That actually, it's a little bit related. I know you mentioned it before, but anyway, my physics department is doing like a basically like a road trip from where we're at to Colorado for the Society of Physics Students Conference. Basically taking a road trip. We're all gonna take a meet with one of our members as like parents. Like, we're reasonable people. We're reasonable people. We have a license. You can trust us with your car. It should be fun. Like this like group bonding experience. We also like well, someone's taking tours. I'm taking a tour of Colorado State University, seminar like how to apply to grad school, how to communicate science. Honestly, yeah, I think something like that would be good for SSA trip though. Something like this, honestly, that would be almost perfect, almost dovetail for SSA.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there are opportunities to sort of, dovetail or piggyback, whatever the right expression is, on something else that's already going on. And in fact, that can be a good way of, sort of increasing the interest and buy-in in whatever you're doing if it can sort of, serve two purposes simultaneously. And so, especially if, we basically just learn a little bit more about how you incorporate, SSA into this. This would be something that, as we learn more about it, potentially there might be some possibility for SSA grant funding, or potentially, if, let's say, as we learn more about it, we're like, okay, that's not a great fit for a grant. That would be something where, we could help you set up a fundraising page and provide assistance in that area, so that way you could still do it even without an SSA grant. Basically at this point, all we really need is just, a little bit of information. It definitely helps to also, submit that information to that grant link that I was referencing earlier, because if we have a chat about it, it's possible that I might forget some of the details if you just call me up on the phone and we chat about it. So having it entered into our database by going to that secularstudents.org/grants link that I gave earlier, that will also put it in our system. So if when Sean and I have a meeting about what you want to do, like let's say a day or two after or a week, depending on what we got going on in the office after you submit it, we could reference that and be able to say, okay, here's what Raphael wants to do. Let's have a chat about, what would be the right way of getting Raphael funding for this. And I just encourage you, the more details you could put in a grant application like that, the better. I will take a moment to also praise Mississippi State once again, that when Mississippi State put information about hosting Durante Lamar, they provided a bunch of details about, both the event and the funding that they needed to bring Durante to campus. And that just makes our job a whole lot easier. So the more details you can submit in a grant application, the better. Does that fully answer your question, by the way, Raphael?
Yes, it does.
Okay, perfect, great. I see Hayden raised his hand.